Hello students, welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am Dr. Kapindra from Kirodimal College, University of Delhi. Today we are going to discuss about a module Terrestrial Ecosystem Part 2 under paper Principles of Ecology. After studying this module, you shall be able to define terrestrial ecosystem, learn the meaning of grassland and desert ecosystem, describe different types of grasslands and desert ecosystem. Know about Indian deserts and grasslands. All terrestrial ecosystems are quite different from aquatic ecosystems. The amount of water availability determines the type of habitat to a particular land. Terrestrial ecosystems are more complex and show great variation as compared to an aquatic ecosystem. In addition to water, air, and soil also forms foundation for sustaining the life on land. The physical conditions such as humidity, sunlight, wind, and temperature are not uniformly distributed to the whole terrestrial habitat. The interaction of physical, climate, and biotic factors produces a wide variety of ecologic conditions on the continents and islands. Terrestrial ecosystems in their natural states are found in different types of forests, grasslands, semi-arid areas, and deserts. In the previous module, we had discussed the forest ecosystem, and in this module, we will learn different types of grassland ecosystems and desert ecosystem. Grassland ecosystem. Grasslands are present everywhere except Antarctica. They are found both in the middle latitude and equatorial tropical climatic zones. Grasslands are formed where there is not enough rain for the development of forest but is sufficient to support the growth of different species of grasses during the monsoon. The parts of grasses and herbs above the ground dry during the summer season, and in monsoon the grass cover grows back from the root stock and the seeds of the previous years. A variety of grasses, herbs, insects, birds, and mammals have adapted to these highly seasonal increased growth of grasses followed by a dormant phase. The grassland can be further categorized into following types. Temperate grassland. The temperate grassland climate is one of recurring drought, and much of the diversity of vegetation cover reflects differences in the amount and consistency of precipitation. These grasslands occurs where the annual rainfall varies between 10 inches to 30 inches, which mainly depends upon temperature, seasonal distribution of the rainfall, and water holding capacity of the soil. Large grasslands occupy the interior of the North America and Eurasian continents, southern South America, and Australia. Native grasslands of North America, influenced by declining precipitation from east to west, consist of three main types: tall grass, mixed grass, and short grass prairies, distinguished by the height of the dominant species. The root of most species penetrate deeply, and the mass of roots will be several times than the above ground parts. Forbs generally constitute a small part of the producer's biomass in climax grasslands, but they are consistently present. Increased grazing or drought or both tend to increase the percentage of forbs. Very extensive area of grassland, especially the tall grass prairies, have now been replaced by grain agriculture or cultivated pastures. From southeastern Texas to southern Arizona and south into Mexico lies the desert grasslands, similar in many respects to the short grass plains. The Central Valley of California is associated with a Mediterranean climate characterized by rainy winters and hot, dry summers. These steppes, treeless except for ribbons and patches of forests, are divided into four belts of latitude from the Magic Meadow steppes in the north to semi-arid grasslands in the south. The major grasslands in southern Africa and Southern America, known as pampas, these are modified by the introduction of European forage grasses and alfalfa. Grasslands support a diversity of animal life dominated by herbivorous species, both invertebrates and vertebrates. Large grazing ungulates and burrowing mammals are the most conspicuous vertebrates. The North American grasslands once were dominated by huge migratory herds of millions of bison and the fork-consuming pronghorn antelopes. The Eurasian steppes and the Argentine pampas lack herds of large ungulates. On the pampas, the two major large herbivores are the pampas deer and the guanco, a small relative of the camel. These species, however, are greatly reduced in number compared to historical times. Tropical savanna. The term savanna was initially used to describe the treeless areas of South America. Now, it is generally used to explain vegetation types in the drier tropic and subtropics, which are characterized by a ground cover of grasses with few shrubs or trees. Savanna includes an array of vegetation types representing a continuum of increasing cover of woody vegetation from open grassland to widely spaced shrubs or trees and to woodland. Tropical savanna are found in warm regions with 40 to 60 inches of rainfall, but with one or two prolonged dry seasons, when fires are the important part of the environment. The largest area of this type is in Central and Eastern Africa, but sizable tropical savannas or grasslands also occurs in South America and Australia. The physiognomic diversity of the savanna vegetation reflects the different climate conditions occurring throughout this widely distributed ecosystem. A function of both rainfall and soil, its texture, structure, and water holding capacity control the density of woody vegetation. Mean monthly temperature typically do not fall below 18 degrees Celsius, although during the coldest months is high land areas temperatures can be considerably lower. The nature of the vegetation cover can be determined by the amount and seasonality of precipitation than by temperature. Because both trees and grasses must be resistant to both drought and fire, the number of species in the vegetation is not large, in sharp contrast to adjacent forests. Grasses belongs to such genera are Panicum, Panicetum, Andropogon, and Imperata provides the dominant cover, whereas the scattered trees are of entirely different species from those of tropical forests. In Africa, the thorny and picturesque acacias and other leguminous trees and shrubs, the large trunk baobab trees, arborescent euphorbias, and palm dot the landscape. Often single species of both grass and trees may be dominant over larger areas. Savannas can support a large and varied assemblage of herbivores, invertebrate, and vertebrate. In number and variety, the population of hoofed mammals of the African savanna is not exceeded anywhere in the world. Antelope, zebra, and giraffe graze and browse and are sought by lions and other predators in the areas. Some species, such as wildebeest and zebra, are migratory during the dry season. Insects are most abundant in savanna during rainy season, including flies, grasshoppers, locusts, crickets, carabid beetles, ants, and detritus feeding during beetles and termites. Mound building termites excavate and move tons of soil, mixing mineral soil with organic matter. Living on the ungulate fauna is an array of carnivores including the lion, leopard, cheetah, hyena, and wild dog. Scavengers including vultures and jackals subsist on leftover prey. Indian grasslands. The grasslands are vegetations formation that are generally found in temperate climates. In India, they are found mainly in the high Himalayas. The rest of India's grasslands are mainly composed of steppes and savannas. Steppe formation occupy large area of sandy and saline soil. In western Rajasthan, where the climate is semi-arid, average rainfall is less than 200 mm a year with a dry season of 10 to 11 months and a large variation in rainfall. The soil is always exposed, sometimes rocky, but more often sandy with fixed or mobile dunes. Forage is available only during the brief wet season. The grass layer is sparse and consists mainly of annual grass species. In the central and eastern part of Rajasthan, where the rainfall is above 500 mm per year and the dry season is 6 to 8 months, dry savanna grazing ecosystem have developed. The light shades cast by the sparse population of the tree like Prosopis cineraria favors the growth of the grasses, which is the best watered areas can reach up to a height of 100 centimeter to 120 centimeter. The major differences between steppes and savanna is that all the forage in the steppes is provided only during the brief wet season, whereas in the savannas, forage is largely from grasses that not only grow during the wet season but also from the smaller amount of regrowth in the dry season. Under heavy grazing pressure, the quality of grasslands also deteriorates rapidly. In arid to semi-arid tracts, active growth of vegetation is triggered each year by the advent of the monsoon during July or early July. The biomass increases to its peak value around September to October. Fruiting is completed by September and subsequently the plants dry up. In subtropical parts of northern India, which receive winter rain, there is usually a second flux of growth in December and January. Deserts. True deserts are primarily subtropical, occurring generally in climates drier than those of semi-desert scrub. Deserts are formed in regions with less than 25 centimeter of annual rainfall or sometimes in hot regions where there is more rainfall, but unevenly distributed in the annual cycle. Plant forms range from typical low shrubs to some very distinctive plants and lichens in area with fog. True deserts are always poor both in flora and fauna. The vast land areas of the Sahara in North Africa, the Arabian Peninsula, the west coast of South America, and parts of Australia, India, and southwestern United States are typically area of true deserts. Most deserts receive some rain during the year and have at least a sparse cover of vegetation, unless the Arabic conditions of the substrate happens to be especially unfavorable. Apparently, the only place where little or no rainfall is located in the central Sahara Desert and northern Chile. When deserts are irrigated and water is no longer a limiting factor, the type of soil becomes a prime consideration. When the texture and nutrient content of the soil are favorable, irrigated deserts can be extremely productive because of the large amount of sunlight they receive. However, the cost per kg of food produced may be high because of high cost of developing and maintaining irrigation system. Three life forms of the plants are adapted to the deserts. The annual, which avoid drought by growing only when there is adequate moisture. The stem succulents, such as the cacti, which have the moisture conserving camp photosynthesis and also store water. The desert shrubs, which have numerous branches ramifying from a short basal trunk bearing thick small leaves that are shed during the prolonged dry periods. Although arbitrary, it is convenient to recognize two types of deserts on the basis of temperature. Deserts. In North America, the creosote bush is a widespread dominant of the southwestern hot desert, and sagebrush is the chief plant over the large area of the more northern cool deserts of the Great Basin. Bursage is also widespread in southern areas, whereas at higher altitudes where there is a little more moisture, the giant saguaro cactus and palo verde are conspicuous. The succulent life forms, including the cacti and the arbuscent yuccas and agaves, reach their greatest development in Mexican desert. Some species of this type extend into the shrub desert of Arizona and California. But this life form is the unimportant in the cool deserts. In all deserts, annual forbs and grasses make quite a show during brief wet periods. The extensive bare grounds in deserts is not necessarily free of plants. Mosses, algae, and lichens may be present, and on sand and other finely divided soil. They may form the stabilized crust. Desert animals and plants are adapted in various ways to the lack of water. Reptiles and some insects are pre-adapted because of their relatively impervious integuments and dry excretion. Desert insects are waterproofed with substances that remain impermeable at high temperature. Evaporation from respiration is minimized by internally invaginated spherical system. It should be pointed out that production of metabolic water, often the only water available, is not in itself an adaptation. It is the conservation of this water that is adaptive, as is the ability to produce more metabolic water at low humidities. In the case of tanibionid beetles, mammals are not very well adapted as a group. Yet, certain species are adapted remarkably. Among these desert mammals are rodents of the family Heteromidae and Dipodidae, especially the kangaroo rat and the pocket mouse of the New World desert and the zerboa of the Old World deserts. These animals can live indefinitely on dry seeds and do not require drinking water. They remain in burrows during the day and conserve water by excreting very concentrated urine and by not using water to regulate their body temperature. Thus, the adaptation of deserts by these rodents is as much behavioral as physiological. Other desert rodents, such as wood rats, cannot live solely on dry food but survives in part of the desert by consuming succulent cacti or other plants that store water. Even the camel must drink water, but camels can endure long periods without water because their body tissue can tolerate an elevation of body temperature and a degree of dehydration that would be fatal to most animals. Despite belief, camels do not store water in their humps. Indian deserts. The Indian deserts forms the east end of the greatest desert district of the world, extending from the Atlantic coast of Africa, including the Sahara, part of Arabia, South Persia, and Balochistan. The climate of this region is characterized by excessive drought, the rainfall being scanty and irregular. The winter rain of the northern India rarely penetrates into the region, and there is thus only rainy season. The cold region starts from about the middle of November to the middle of March. This season is characterized by extreme variations of temperature, and the temperature is frequently below freezing point at night. During April, May, and June, the heat is intense, trying, and scorching winds prevail with great desiccating action being frequent. The relative humidity of the atmosphere is always low. Under such circumstances, germination of seed is impossible, so Indian desert is hostile to only those plant vegetations which bear special adaptation to establish themselves. These adaptations are in general includes to enable the plant to obtain water and to retain it when obtained. The bulk of the vegetation consists of a kind of scrub made up of shrubs and perennial herbs capable of great drought resistance. There are a few trees, and these are stunted and generally thorny or prickly, thus protecting themselves against plant feeding animals. The desert plant may be divided into two main groups. The first group includes those plants which directly depend upon rain, and second group depending on the presence of subterranean water. The first group consists of ephemerals and the rain perennials. The ephemerals are delicate annuals free from any xerophilous adaptation. They appear almost immediately after rain, develop flowers and fruits in an incredibly short time, and dies as soon as the surface layer of soil dries up. The rain perennials are visible above the ground only during rainy season, but have a perennial underground stem, bulbous monocotyledon, of which Dipcady erythroium is a representative from this region, and also various cypressi grows. By far the largest number of indigenous plants are capable of absorbing water from deep below the surface of the ground by means of well-developed root system, the main part of which generally consists of a slender, woody taproot of extraordinary length. The animals are also adapted according to desert conditions. Among reptiles, there occur two species of testudines, 18 species of lizards, and 18 species of snakes. Of lizards, some species like Calotes versicolor, Euromastix dardwicki are predatory on the desert locust inhabiting localized area in Thar Desert. Among predominant predatory birds are two species of vulture, namely Gypsy bengalensis and white vulture Nephron. The mammalian fauna of Indian desert includes many species, some of which are rat-tailed bat, hedgehog, Indian hairy-footed gerbil, wild boar, jungle cats, panthers, etc. So students, let us summarize what have we learned in this module. Terrestrial ecosystems are more complex and show great variations as compared to an aquatic ecosystem. The interaction of physical, climate, and biotic factors produces a wide variety of ecologic conditions on the continents and islands. Terrestrial ecosystems in their natural state are found in different types of forests, grasslands, semi-arid areas, and deserts. Grasslands are present everywhere except Antarctica. They are found both in the middle latitude and equatorial tropical climatic zones. Grasslands are formed where there is not enough rain for the development of forest but is sufficient to support the growth of different species of grasses during the monsoon. The grassland can be further categorized as temperate grassland and tropical savannas. The temperate grasslands climate is one of recurring drought, and much of the diversity of vegetation cover reflects differences in the amount and consistency of precipitation. Large grassland areas occupy the interior of the North America and Eurasian continents, southern South America and Australia. Savanna includes an array of vegetation types representing a continuum of increasing cover of woody vegetation from open grassland to widely spaced shrubs or trees and to woodlands. Tropical savannas are found in warm regions with 40 to 60 inches of rainfall but with one or two prolonged dry seasons. The largest area of this type is in Central and Eastern Africa, but sizable tropical savannas or grasslands also occurs in South America and Australia. In India, grasslands are mainly composed of steppes and savannas. Steppes formation occupy large area of sandy and saline soil in western Rajasthan, where the climate is semi-arid. Average rainfall is less than 200 mm a year. True deserts are primarily subtropical, occurring generally in climates drier than those of semi-desert scrub. Deserts are formed in regions with less than 25 cm of annual rainfall, or sometimes in hot regions where there is more rainfall but unevenly distributed in the annual cycle. True deserts are always poor both in flora and fauna. The vast land area of Sahara in northern Africa, the Arabian Peninsula, the western coast of South America, and parts of Australia, India, and southwestern United States are typical areas of true deserts.